Welcome to the Natural Genius podcast. We're here to help you tap into your natural genius. Let's go. I've often called Hamish Curry my brother from another mother. He is an exceptional human who I adore spending time with. We've snowboarded and skied together, and we've travelled together, and we do Lectures Australia together, the two of us curating speakers and the experience, which was intense and just so much fun, and we achieved so much beauty together. He is a strategist, an educator, just a principled and lovely person, and somebody who can put together disparate topics in events and experiences, and they work. I saw him do it at the State Library in Melbourne, and I've seen him do it a number of times across different initiatives. And he's also spent a lot of time providing volunteer support to a whole heap of different organisations very effortlessly. I don't know how he finds the hours in the day while rearing two beautiful humans with his lovely wife, and plenty of travel across the world, and specifically in Japan as well. It is with such great pleasure that we have natural genius guest Hamish Curry. Hamish Curry, this is a complete pleasure to have you on the Natural Genius podcast. How exciting! So I wanted to start off with, because the two of us in our work together, we've done a lot of quite playful things.
How long's it been?
Actually, I
15, 16 years?
Yeah, possibly.
Maybe more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been a while.
Lucky me.
I know. Lucky me.
And I was thinking, actually, because we were at Creative Performance Exchange together, as participants, and then the two of us ended up by being on the team with Pete Spence helping organise it.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking so highly. It was like when I met Eddie Harron. When I met you, I was like, whoa, what a dude. He does all this great stuff. And then fast forward 15 years, we've been on chairlifts together and travelled together and done crazy, ambitious projects successfully together. And, so probably would have been 2010 or 12 or something like that we would have... Oh, no, maybe even earlier than that, 2008 or so. Anyway, people don't need to know.
Yeah, no, we're just old.
We've known each other for a while, and we're both joking about needing glasses now.
It's old glasses. Yeah.
Grey hair. Right, so tell me about how you have retained that playfulness in work, and do you think it might have stemmed originally from being a teacher and wanting to bring in that playfulness with education as well?
That's a good kicker off of that one.
Is it?
Yeah, because
I don't
maybe, and maybe this speaks to what, it speaks to the natural genius, so that doesn't sit comfortably with me. But the natural bit, the natural playfulness is probably the thing. I don't necessarily think about it. I was saying to someone the other day that one of my favourite words that I've had for a long time is the word neoteny.
Oh.
And neoteny. It basically means childlike qualities in adults.
Yes.
And it can often be used as in a derogatory way, that you're just immature. But in one sense, neoteny also means that you're just a little bit playful and childlike. And so I like this idea of playfulness, because I think as a teacher, I liked the idea of that you could do something for kids, and if kids really enjoyed it and found it fun, then it's really, really likely that adults would find the same experience. And I think, yes, naturally through teaching and wanting to make things interesting and not the same, and that's one thing I've always struggled with, is routine. I get the importance of it, and I there's aspects of what I do that I would say are routine, but just doing the same thing the same way and always getting the same results, I guess that's where my sense of playfulness is like, there's got to be something better or more fun to do.
Yeah.
So, I think every time when I met you, looking at events and looking at the ways different people would come together, it was always about this little different X factor.
Yes.
That suddenly that was the spark that everyone needed to take it to another level.
And so through being a teacher and a director in education, was there, when you and I met, had you already established, because that would have been maybe 15 years of work you might have had, or 10 years so far?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And
yeah.
Because one of the real beautiful memories I've got of our work with Do Lectures is the way you curated the program. So we had a lot of moving parts, but when we were talking about the speakers, you had like groupings of 3, and I remember there was something like the 3 horsemen, or you sort of had this kind of arc of storytelling through the whole program with 20 speakers, but then you'd grouped them. And I always, between that experience, which seemed really unique, and your own kind of magic and your own craft, and then I remember hearing about when you were at State Library here in Melbourne, and you'd put like, I don't know, raspberry pie and cooking or something, like 2 disparate things together that apparently worked really well, and you constantly were doing events like that would attract the public and have a really great turnout.
Yeah.
So, when you and I first met, had you already kind of worked out the kind of zeitgeisty X factor that led to events being successful by putting disparate things together?
God, that's a good one. That's testing my memory around, was I aware of it? I don't think as much. I think when I left being a teacher,
yes,
like that was the bit that allowed me to suddenly realise there were all sorts of other opportunities where I could start to try different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was through that experience with the State Library, and then having the opportunity to kind of just take on whatever jobs they needed at the same time as, I think it will, in many respects, it will be seen as kind of like a little mini renaissance, that period of time. It just felt like it was actually about the diversity of putting people together that was the magic. Right. And so the bit with Do Lectures, that one of the many things I loved about it was just this element of, like, I wonder what happens if I get this person and this person followed by this person. What kind of narrative does that build for people?
Yes.
And it's definitely not a thing, and I think this is where curation is definitely not a thing where it's like, I'm going to put these 3 people together because they all talk about economics. And that's not the point. The point is about what's the underlying message, what type of person are they, what's the vibe, and also what sort of journey do I want to take the audience on after it's all over. Like, are we now going into dinner? Are we now going into lunch? Where do I want to leave people feeling? So, like, not that I would say I have any experience or understanding of how you would craft a movie, but I think there are similar elements to that.
Yes.
And I've always liked this idea of curating.
Yeah.
And having things together that may not seem immediately logical, but and they don't always work either.
Yes.
But then something really interesting happens, and that's the bit where I love it when people can't guess why they feel the way they do because of what's happened.
Yes.
And I know that people at Do Lectures kept saying, "Oh, it was really clever the way you put those people together," which was good. But it was never my intention to somehow for that to be visible.
Yes,
it had to feel slightly serendipitous.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
and that's actually probably something that I have mentioned to other people before, and I think I've got a draft blog post somewhere sitting there that's never been published, which is about this idea of curated serendipity.
Yes,
like in order to get something serendipitous, you have to put yourself in a situation or a context or in a place where it can come to you. Like you've got to curate it. You actually have to go, right, I'm going to go walk in this park because the kind of thing I'm thinking that might happen might be this. And maybe nothing will happen, but maybe it will.
Yes. Or go teach English in Japan and meet your beautiful lady wife.
Yeah. But then also, like, when I went to Japan, like, I went with full understanding that I knew nothing. So I didn't sort of pretend like I know something, which is the bit that doesn't know me about what you see a lot of these days online. People who go for one trip and then they're now doing 50 million TikToks and acting like they know everything about Japan. Oof. Like, I've been going to Japan for now 26 years and I still know very little about the country, you know. And when I first arrived in Japan, everyone else had a plan except me, or that's how it felt. And when it came to time to say, oh, so where would you like to teach? I was like, I don't know. And they went, oh, well, everyone else has taken Tokyo and Osaka. And it's like, well, we're going to send you to Takaoka. And like, everyone just laughed. And I was like, what? It's like, that's in the middle of nowhere. I was like, okay. And I distinctly remember actually when I was thinking about this conversation.
Yes.
I distinctly remember, as in terms of these moments, arriving in Takaoka at night. It was pouring with rain. I couldn't see anything. And then there's a whole lot of really interesting serendipitous things that happened. But the next morning when I woke up, like, I realized like 360 degrees, there were like Alps, snowy Alps around me. And I was like, yeah, I totally landed in the right place. And the fact that then I met my wife, so I really landed in the right place. So yeah.
I love that. And as you were thinking about this conversation, dare I ask, was there some pondering about role models that you might have come across through your... do you have any stories of people that might have helped to, not just serendipity, but helped to kind of chart Hamish Curry's course?
I would say again that the ability to kind of not leave everything to chance, but be able to kind of leave yourself open with options is so important. That's something definitely I think about with my own kids is whatever you do, just make sure you've got pathways and options, not a pathway. Yeah. Which is often where a lot of people are pushed into a pathway, but like have multiple things at your fingertips that you can tap into. I guess like when it comes to those sorts of moments, it's I guess it's what am I trying to say? It's like being able to kind of realize that you can have a choice, and so you don't just take the thing that looks easy, but also you can think about the thing that will that has a little bit of mystery or curiosity about it. It's not quite. Maybe that's me. I don't want to. I don't want to ever do something where it's all just laid out for me. Like here, take the wheel. Like it's all good. You don't have to do anything else. Be like,
Or here, turn up to Japan. You're going to teach English, and you'll know these are exactly.
This is exactly what will happen. Yeah. Like if it's 100% predictable, it'll be 100% boring for me. Yes. So, and then the second thing to that was, it probably is just a little bit of luck as a part of that, but I've been very, very, very fortunate to work in roles where I've had plenty of models around me, as in role models. So
is that right?
Yeah. Wow, I think every job I've done, I can name up the person or at least two people who were like, they're the people that I'm going to learn the most from, and they were always people that had very deep levels of wisdom. Yes. And so, there's definitely something in that. Like, I'm attracted to those sorts of roles where if I know that there's people there who've got a lot of wisdom and are very open about sharing that, and then entrusting someone else to see what you can do with it. I think that's where I tend to kind of have fun.
Yeah, wow. And prior to us starting this conversation, we were talking about Uncle Bob Randall and his Canyini philosophy that our dear friend Auntie Barb Randall is helping to get out into the world. And I think maybe that's another example of where, somebody is holding on to this amazing knowledge, and you can help to enable that to get out to many people. So is that what you're meaning?
That's just another great example, right?
Yeah.
Like it comes to something another. I mean, I think I've said this before in other contexts, but in addition to neoteny,
yes,
and that being a very favourite word, my other really favourite word, and I'm probably going to say there's more than two, but is the word, it's called sagacity.
Yes.
And so sagacity is defined as the intelligent application of knowledge acquired from years of learning and experience. So it's not wisdom, it's like applied wisdom. It's like this idea that I took this thing and I did it here because I learnt that it worked, and it may work here too.
Sure.
And I think that Indigenous knowledges are actually quite typical of those things, because they obviously the work of Kanyini comes from the very central parts of Australia, like literally from the heart of Australia. But the messages and the intentions and the opportunities for others to learn and be inspired by it can be applied almost anywhere. And then it's the excitement of being able to come up with ways to communicate that, where I think most educators get just as much inspiration from what they learn as what they help the students learn. So that's why I think something like Kanyini is something that I would love to see flourish.
Oh gosh, yeah. And for so many reasons, and also because it's so, some of the Indigenous stories I've heard and fables and way of seeing the world, I can so see why they've lasted through the years, because they're sweet stories that like I remember hearing about a story about the platypus, and the story was about the wood duck and the water rat, and it was about unconditional love. And the story goes on, and then at the end, the elder that told it was saying, so why wouldn't you preserve the platypus's environment, because you're protecting unconditional love. And I just, that and other stories I've heard from Indigenous elders, they're just so sweet with their simplicity and their...
But if you think about, and this is something I think other cultures, like maybe Western civilization, really struggle with, is that we haven't spent over 65,000 years both just being completely connected with natural wonder and the natural wonders of the world around us, and then deeply appreciating the role of family and kinship and that sort of connection to country. Like we don't, that's not our world. And so I think that's why it's often hard for others to understand it.
Yes.
And classically, every pattern has always been that if I don't understand it, then I can just be dismissive of it. And that's the pattern we see repeated everywhere. Like arrogance and ignorance goes well before, deeper understanding and wisdom. Like and often you need to create an experience for it to like wake someone up. Like you need something that breaks it. And that's probably one of the other things that when I was at the State Library, something that we found that has stayed with me all that time too, is like, so libraries are just basically obsessed with memories, right? So collecting them, like every book, every publication, everything, like just this collection of all these of memory. And when we were trying to think about how we design education programs, yes, you could sit there and tell students all the facts and all the, we have so many books and here's the oldest thing and here's the most expensive. And we thought that was educating, but actually when we were really getting into it, we realized it was actually just about making something memorable.
Yes.
And it only had to be one thing.
Wow.
Which is it, that all the facts wasn't memorable. It was that we did something a little bit different, or we told them something like a little ghost story that they all knew wasn't true, but it now brought the place to life in some way. And that's all you needed. Yeah. And that I think as someone that loves designing learning, how you make something memorable is a far more admirable and ambitious goal than just saying, how do I make sure kids just memorize this? Which is unfortunately where often a lot of education goes, which is memorize this, repeat it on a test, rather than something if I asked a child, what was something truly memorable that you've done? They probably wouldn't be able to name anything. And I think that's sad that education doesn't make learning memorable. So that's what I think that's a big driver for what I want to do.
I think that's not just for children. I was reflecting recently on entrepreneurs that I've worked with that have been really successful, and often it is story, or often it's being able to explain, to create a mini movie between two states.
Yeah.
Like where we're at now and what we want to get to.
But I think the other thing for me is people increasingly, and I think, like I say, we're different, but so we're just feeding each other's egos at this point. But we have a real spirit of adventure.
That's right. Yeah.
Like we like to go out and do things that we're not entirely sure are going to work, but also like whether that's starting something, going somewhere, and so having adventures to me is the equivalent of making something memorable. That's what creates deep things. And do lectures was one of those because in that sort of trifecta of design, you bring people, place, and program.
Yes.
And so if you think about those in equal measure, you've got a huge opportunity for something deeply memorable. Yeah. And out of even a real event or program I've ever done in my life, do lectures, like head and shoulders is above all of that.
Amazing.
Like, people that attended it, were connected to it, still to this day talk about do lectures. I have never known anyone with any program, any other, like, to ever have done that. So there was something in the curation of those three things where it would be very hard to replicate, but that's what made that memorable. And so I think those three things, I think about those three things all the time when we start a new project at work. Like, what sort of people are involved? Have we got just the same people, or do we need to bring a different person? Like, what place is this happening on? Like, it can be a physical place, but digital is also a place. Yeah. So what digital world is this building? Indeed. And then program, which is, and what's driving it? What are we building with? Yeah. So often program can supersede everything else. Yeah. And that's where I think there are probably some really delicate balances where people are realizing that there are limits to how many of those ingredients you put in. Like, do lectures, I think that I think we always capped at about 100 people. That seems to be like, for me, that feels like a magic number for a big event. Yeah. For a deep multi-day big event, like 100 people, like any more than that, and it just feels like a festival or something. It's not really a place of, it's just, you're not really there to connect, so you don't.
I think you might need to go to do lectures in Wales.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
I think that ever so slightly
I feel like there's also a thing, right, where it's like, in back of my head, it's like, yeah, but I'd done that. I did it. Why would I want to go and do lectures again? Yeah, I know. A little nudge, like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because you've got the sense of adventure and you've totally got to spend time.
But there is a part of me, it's like, I did that. I'd want to, like, what's the next evolution of do lecture, like beyond that? Like, so yes, you can keep doing that, but also, and I have since seen people post on LinkedIn about gone to do lectures, even people recently in the last 2 years, and they've talked about this life-changing experience, and I just go, yeah, I know what you mean. Yes. I don't need to go because I know exactly what you mean. Like, you've had the experience that I think we were able to.
Well, let me see if I can explain myself, because I would hate to send you somewhere that you don't want to go. There again, it could be quite fun to send him somewhere. So it was like when we gave the amazing Naomi Dyer the giving chair, or the ticket to be there, and she had organised so many different do lectures in Wales, and she got to sit there and not be a volunteer.
Yeah.
And remember how I was like, she can be a volunteer. And I was like, no, we're not having her do anything. Like, I did actually see her with a piece of chalk beforehand and helping us because she had beautiful writing. So doing some blackboard stuff. But I would encourage you to go to the one in Wales, partly because I think that they have that ability to change it up every year. And so you get to be a participant, you get to have some accolades because you completely deserve them from so much hard work that we all put into those experiences. This moment is about your natural genius. If there's a spark within you that wants to develop a lighter way, a clearer signal to achieve more, I'd like to work with you one-on-one. If you're after inspired direction in what you have to give, get in touch with me via our website, naturalgenius.com.au. Now back to the natural genius. Actually, as you're talking about do lectures in Australia, there were 3 memories that came to mind. And I wanted to throw into your mix of the 3 dimensions of design. One of the things that I think was really sweet about that experience is that a lot of the people that were helping organise were mature in themselves. So if you think of Tess and Gray with The Place, and the history was we'd been looking for the venue for ages. We couldn't find it. We went to Tassie, we went around Victoria, we just couldn't find it. And then obviously Payne's Hut, where we ran it, was a B&B for 8 people. And we grew it to 100-ish. It was meant to be 80. Plus I think we got to 120 at one stage.
Well, that was plus all the staff and all the volunteers.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
and so I remember them... so having run it for 2 years, there was that camaraderie that was developed. And I remember Tess calling me one day and in the lead up, and she was saying, Sammy, do you want it to be called the coffee stand, the tuck shop, the such and such? But she had enough respect and space for me as the director to ask detailed questions like that because it mattered. And then remember how one of the memories that you loved that I've heard you say a few times is that with all of the machinations and the chaos and the calm and the madness and the, organising behind the scenes, at one stage over dinner, and the backdrop of this was I remember David Hyatt talking about one of his, if we go into business speak KPIs, one of his goals was for the decibels at the eatery to be loud on the first or second night or something like that. And, because people are strangers with each other, they've travelled, and if the conversation or the sound of over dinner is loud, then we're doing well. And I remember you and I, I can't remember if it was the first night or the second night, and we had Brooke making amazing vine leaf covered salmon, wrapped salmon. Yeah. And and suddenly the conversation stopped. And I remember, I feel like there's a memory, or that maybe we've talked about it. The 2 of us were like, uh-oh. But it was that the salmon tasted so good. It was that everyone stopped talking.
Yeah. It was like that moment in Ratatouille,
yes,
where the food critic at the end tastes this it's a ragu or something, and you just watch him, his whole world goes into his head, and he's taken back to his childhood. It was this thing where it just that food instantly hit me with this bolt of lightning. But it was also a thing of, this food has no right to be this good given where we are, with no power and a kitchen that was cobbled together to try and feed all these people. And so I immediately put everything down. I ran into the kitchen and gave Brooke this massive hug. I said, yes. I don't know how you did it. It was just this, that's just insane.
Yeah.
So there is those sorts of really memorable things that you've got to take time to appreciate them.
Well, because the third one that was coming to mind as you were talking was, this must have been for the second year, where there was the outdoor art exhibition up in the gum trees, high in the gum trees and down low. And I remember us leading into talking about the second event and how we would change things up. And Tess and Gray, quite 7 hours drive away from Melbourne, far away in the remote parts of Victoria in Australia, had time to ponder each night or, over time how they would change things up at their place for the second time round. I remember them calling and saying, Sammy, we've got this idea, of which they did a few times. And they said, we want to do an art installation in the bush, and then we get people to come on their arrival. They stop before the site, and then they walk through this in the bush, through these installations, and then they arrive into the property. It was the greatest idea. And then over the weeks to come, because most of the time I'd just say yes whenever they came up with ideas, and I remember over the weeks to come, then they would say, we want to do this in the art installation, or we want to do this, and sure enough, they'd suspended stuff up in the high up, and then they hadn't just thought about height, and they'd thought about texture and scent and smell and taste. Yeah. And so they had Brooke, their daughter, create these beautiful balls that were covered in colourful flower petals, so that at the, I don't know, I think maybe they had 6 stations, all the different senses, but then you could taste something amazing that was colourful. So, yeah, when those 3 aspects of design, I as you were talking about it, they're the sort of real poignant moments that and the fact that I think that the people that were working on it, the key people, were mature and expressing their own uniqueness by each of us giving each other space to be able to let that come out and saying yes.
Yeah, I always get lots of inspiration from creative people, in the sense that if we've got to try and do something, even if it's new or not new, I know that when I was you'd always have those discussions about it. I'd always throw out lots of suggestions, hoping that people would disagree.
Right.
And go, oh no, but what about this? Because, and then I'd go, oh yeah, that was the thing. There'd be this missing bit. But, often my test would be that I would throw out things, and it would be could be to the team that I was leading or something like that. But if they just sat there and went, oh, okay. I'd be like, can you please disagree? Or can you please just you're not here to do what I say.
Yes.
You're here to kind of bring your own special creativity and ideas or thinking to this.
Yeah.
And that's why I've always wanted to, when people come with some sort of, oh, can I try this? My first answer is always trying to say yes.
Yeah.
Because, and that was something that, and I don't know who I loaned it to, but I've lost this little book called Orbiting the Giant Hairball by, I was going to say Mackenzie, Rob Mackenzie. Anyway, it's a tiny little book, and he worked at Hallmark Cards for 11 years, and he was a real thorn in their side because he just didn't do anything conventionally. And in this little book, he just has all these little chapters that are just little stories that are just takeaways about that. And one of them is literally one sentence. It's the Wright brothers didn't have a pilot's license. And I thought, that's the chapter. That's all there is to say. Yeah. And then another one was he got so annoying, they decided put him in their own office and said, you're going to be the person who looked after ideas for Hallmark. Yes. Because they just wanted to put him in a room and shut him up. And you just go and
it's such a good book. I remember you recommending it to me.
And then in the middle of the book, it all gets all scribbly because he spends the weekend trying to figure out what he's going to do. And he comes back the next week and says, right, my job title is I'm going to be the creative paradox. And they were like, sure. I had no idea. And I thought, sure. Yes. Anyway, and his plan was to never say no. And they didn't know that. He said every idea. And then later when he would give talks about this, people would just constantly say, so you said no? You said yes to every idea? Even when it deserved, I said, yeah. So why? I say, well, even people that come up with these ideas, they still, all they needed is a yes.
Yeah.
Just to know that their perspective on the world or their suggestion or what, just, I've thought about doing this. Yeah, great. Go give it a shot. And it comes back to this idea of, and I find myself trying to encourage others is go have adventures, find serendipity, find something that feeds your kind of creativity, or at least appreciate creativity in some respect. And I think increasingly we sometimes are losing that through what we're either doing in education. And Sir Ken Robinson always said this, that schools kill creativity. And I think that's never been more true.
Oh, gosh.
But it's also, I do get concerned at sometimes is the online, is that, and I find myself doing this too, where we spend too much time online now watching other people be creative and have adventures, and watching other people go on these amazing little trips, or like that Japanese guy that dresses like an animal and is walking across Australia, and I can't remember his name now, but and that might be lovely, but we're watching.
Oh my gosh, I could so see you doing that. Which animal would it be?
Oh yeah, that's in some sort of onesie. But there's an element to this. We're watching other people have adventures that we deserve to have.
Oh, that's such a good.
And I know that there's often a real challenge there around access and equity, and I get that. But I would love to think that even people that don't think those sorts of opportunities are open to them have something at their fingertips that they can do to do something adventurous, or find a way of expressing their creativity, or feeling they're part of some sort of creative endeavor.
Yeah.
And I guess I would love to work out a way that you can do that at scale, and I think experiences, people sometimes want a curated experience, like do lectures, because it's safe.
Yes.
And others are willing to literally pack a wheelbarrow and walk across Australia. There's just different variations.
Or run across Australia.
Well, that's probably a lovely thing that this is probably like a nice way to kind of wrap it out. Like one of the projects, or one of the little side hustles I've been doing at work, started when I started at cool.org, was this, looking at some research people have been doing around the role of hope and optimism.
Yes.
And so I started to do this research on it, and we've ended up designing these two initial frameworks called the Hope Framework and the ACT Framework.
Yes.
And then through that, I started to connect with researchers at Harvard University,
really?
who in a weird piece of serendipity had been doing exactly the same research.
Wow.
And had come up with similar findings, and they were really surprised at how we had come to our conclusions, because they were so kind of aligned. But the role of, the way we're looking at it is the role of hope in a world that sometimes doesn't give you any, right? And so we defined it into three little areas, which was being able to rethink, which is a mindset thing.
Indeed.
Reframe, which is how you see things and how you perceive it.
Yes.
And then redefine, which is how do you want it to be different?
Yeah.
So that it can create hope. And then the kind of other side to this was, we called it the ACT framework, which was sort of got its roots in design thinking, but increasing the narrative I'm hearing a lot. And Harvard actually, we were just speaking to someone actually at Harvard this week. The narrative seems to be moving right away from all this stuff like design thinking as this sort of process, start here, finish there.
Right.
Instead, it's going towards the thing of just jump in anywhere.
Yes. And
work out what you need, and then you'll branch off from there.
Isn't that great? And
that's kind of what we've done with the ACT framework, because we just looked at, there's no process to it.
Yes.
But we just looked at two lenses. We looked at scale and we looked at speed. And then depending on how you want to take action, those depends on which way you want to go.
Yes.
And the number of people that you need, and
indeed.
So I'm kind of energized by that, because that's this year we're about to launch our new strategy, and those things are the kind of have become now the bedrock of the new strategy. Like, how do we really build a movement around hope and action?
Wow. That's a perfect way to end, Hamish Curry.
It'll keep me busy for a little bit.
Oh, Hamish Curry, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
That
Sammy B.
was an amazing session of many different topics,
as
I knew it would be. Yeah, exactly.
We could go for hours.
We could. Let's go for dinner.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Natural Genius podcast. Please share this with anyone who came to mind and visit us at naturalgenius.com.au. Thanks so much.
Oh, so, all right, so that seems to be recording. So the main thing is your audio.
The two of us went straight to
Straight to jazz hands.